Hello there. Welcome to another video. This is my story. My story from rags to riches. Sounds very cliche, doesn't it, from rags to riches, but I wanted to share my story with you. If you have any questions along the way, let me know in the comment section below. If you have a similar story, also let me know. So let's start right from the beginning. I remember being 7, 8 years old, sitting in my parents' living room, and the news was on. It probably was BBC News or ITV News, 6 o'clock news likely, and a clip of the London Stock Exchange came on the screen, and it was a very typical 90s stock exchange. Lots of hustle and bustle, people shouting buy, sell. It looked fantastic, and I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do for a living. And as the years passed on, I finished primary school, went on to secondary school. My strongest subject was always anything to do with numbers, so business, finance, maths. Maths was my strongest subject. And things were going pretty well with regard to my education until I hit about 14. Now when I hit 14, my desires, my habits, my life started to change quite drastically. I got in with some friends who were not a very good influence, and by 15 I was really making some bad life choices. So it's quite incredible at such a young age how you can start to mess up your life, mess up your future. So by 15 I was spending most of my weekends high on drugs, drinking, getting drunk, just messing around, getting into trouble. Did not care about school, did not really care about much at all really, apart from my own gratification. And I did that until about 17. So by 17 I should have been in college, so I should have been in further education. Back then it was voluntary, so now in the UK, once you leave secondary school or high school, you have to go into some sort of higher education. You didn't back then, in the 90s. And I chose not to, because I just was not interested. My self-esteem was so low, I didn't think I was really capable of really getting decent qualifications and earning an income, a good income, having a career. So I just didn't see the point of going to college. And I'd say 99% of people did go to college. I was one of those 1% that didn't. But I did work. I had dead-end jobs, low-income jobs, jobs you can get with no qualifications at 16 years old, 17 years old. So I did that for a while. About 17 and a half, I think I had reached a point where I realized I had to make a change. That sort of the initial excitement and fun of drinking, doing drugs, having all these freedoms, that kind of need to fade away. And about 17 and a half, I realized I had to make some changes and get an education and try to work toward a career. So I started to make some life changes, including changing my friends and things like that. And it took a long time. So skipping 4 years, say from 17 to 21, at the age of 21, I was a completely different person to what I was at 17, a lot more mature. I'd put all those things in the past, still working dead-end jobs, but I was in a position at 21 to really start pursuing a career, or at least an education, with the intent of getting a career. So I started studying accounting. I was still interested in trading, but you couldn't go to the local college and take a trading qualification. You couldn't even take a banking qualification. It just didn't exist. The closest thing I could take was accounting and finance. So that's what I did. Is I started going to night school. I'd study 2 evenings a week and do this accounting qualification. I then met my wife-to-be. We fell in love very quickly. Within a year of meeting, we were married, we've moved in together, we had our first on the way. So a lot happened. It was a big year. I'm fitting a lot of my life into a very small time frame here. So I'm now about 22 and I land my first accounting job, which was great. I then move on to another accounting job. I'm still studying at this time, but my career is starting to take off in accounting and finance. So I've had a couple of jobs in accounting. I'm coming to the end of my studies. My second is now born. And while I'm on paternity leave with my second, I get made redundant. And this is just before the global recession. So we're talking 2006, 2007, that sort of time. So I'm made redundant. I'm coming to the end of my qualifications. I have some experience in accounting. And what I didn't realize at the time was just how bad the global recession was. And to try and get a job during that time was so difficult. Even a standard bookkeeping finance job, you would have like 500 applicants. And obviously there's people applying that were far more experienced and qualified than I was. So I just didn't stand a chance. So I thought maybe this is an opportunity. I'm now in my early 20s with some experience and finishing my qualifications. This is an opportunity for me to perhaps go by myself and start my own accounting practice. So that's what I did. And it didn't take me long to realize I actually have enough time to now look into trading and take this more seriously. And that's really the start of my trading career. And that's how it's been ever since. It's really grown from that point. So my accounting business has grown and grew over the years, and I still operate an accounting business today. The great thing about having that income, especially in the beginning, was I was able to trade without that financial pressure, the pressure of making money. So I had this accounting business. I was working from home. I set up my business from home. So I was at home. I was at a desk all day. I could do what I wanted to a degree. So I had income from the accounting business and I could trade. I had the freedom to trade. That's what I'm trying to say. I started with a CFD platform and I did not know what I was doing in the beginning. I just saw some stocks. So I started trading on a demo account, CFDs, stock CFDs. And what I would do is just wait for a stock to fall for a couple of days and then I would buy it. That was the strategy in the beginning. Never really made anything, never really lost anything, but it was all demo virtual money anyway. So, it was meaningless. It was just a bit of experience. It was just opening me up to trading. On that CFD platform, the broker also offered currencies. So that's how I entered the world of Forex trading, was this CFD broker. And once I got a bit of confidence, I was like, okay, let's go live and let's go in with some serious money and try and make it. Now, I didn't have any money. We were dirt poor. I was married, we're having kids, but we're low income. I was not making much. And starting my own business, obviously, you don't really make much at all in the beginning. So I didn't have any money. I didn't have any savings. To give you an idea of how little money we had, I would buy a car and I would only have enough cash to pay, say, between £400 and £900 for a car, maybe £1,000 tops. Because it was a cheap car that was on its way out, the car would only last 6 to 12 months. By the time the car had broken down, I'd only saved £400 to £900 in that time. It's all the savings I had. So that would then go on a replacement car, and we're stuck in that cycle for a long time. We also moved a lot because we were having children. We didn't really have much money, so we moved a lot. We were renting, and we were getting through a car or two every year, and houses not that far behind. We were moving quite frequently. But we were very happy. I'm kind of getting distracted now by telling this story, but we were very happy. We were newlyweds, starting our family. So even though we didn't have much money, we were very happy. So I'm at home. I have my accounting business I'm setting up. I'm starting to trade. I want to take it seriously. I have no money, so I borrow some money, and I really encourage you never to do that. So I borrowed £3,000, which was a huge sum of money, money for me at the time, £3,000, and I put it into this trading account. And my strategy was, and you might laugh at this, but my strategy was, I noticed that when there was a sudden move in the Forex markets, it quickly retraced. And I think looking back, what I was picking up on was perhaps news spikes. So when news came out, it would spike. And it was those spikes that I saw over and over again. And a lot of my strategies, in fact, all my strategies are based on things I've seen over and over again. And you can probably relate to that. So if you've been trading, you'll probably notice that things happen over and over again in the markets. You see patterns, not necessarily price action patterns, but you just see a pattern. You see that when price perhaps reaches a certain point or rallies to a certain point or certain points a day, certain things happen. And a lot of strategies are based on that, things that you see recurring. It puts chance in your favor if you can notice these patterns. So I created this strategy. Simply, I'd wait for a spike. I didn't even know what the news events were. I never heard of an economic calendar at all. I knew hardly anything. I'd wait for price to spike, get into a trade, and then close the trade once price had returned to where it was before the spike. And on my first day, I made £250, roundabout. And I was ecstatic, like £250, the most I've ever made in a single day. And I thought, I've made it. If I just catch these spikes every day, that they come if they are there every day, then this is great. I can make £250 for every £3,000 that I've got. The second day, though, things were completely different. There was a spike. It was a spike up. So I went short in anticipation for the move back down. And it didn't come back down. It just kept moving higher and higher and higher. And I lost like 2,000, just over £2,000. I think it was £2,200 that I lost. And I was shaking. I was sweating. I was shaking. I had to go and have a shower to calm myself down. I was like, what have I done? I've borrowed this money and I've just lost most of it. But what that experience taught me, my mindset at the time once I calmed down, was I need to take this more seriously. I need to actually learn how to trade. I need to know what I'm doing. So I came across Baby Pips. I haven't been on that website for many, many years. It was very different 15 years ago, when I logged on. But I went on Baby Pips and I started learning about the Forex markets, and I started learning about technical analysis. And that really blew my mind, like technical analysis. I can plot this indicator on and it can give me a signal to buy or sell. So I was like, yes, I've made it. Let's put these indicators on and let's trade. And once again, that didn't really result in anything. I didn't blow an account or anything like that, but not that I remember. But yeah, I started trading these indicators and realized I'm not really having much success. Let's try and actually build a strategy here. So moving on, perhaps 6 months, I opened an account with Awanda at the time, and they offered a broker, they offered a platform called Forex Trade. Sorry, I'm struggling with hay fever and I keep coughing and getting a runny nose. So they offered a platform called Forex Trade, and I created this strategy based on price action and indicators, trading indices on 15-minute charts. And I can't remember which indices I traded. It probably was like the DAX, the CAC, and the FTSE. They were European indices. The Dow. I do remember trading the Dow. So maybe there was the Dow Jones too. And the strategy worked okay. It didn't make me super rich. I didn't see huge returns, but it was profitable. And it was simply just waiting for a retrace move on 50-minute charts, waiting for price to reach moving averages, looking for like signals around moving averages and get into the trade, and then close at the end of the day if I was able to catch a trend. And it worked okay. Now, after doing this for, I don't know, a year or so, my accounting business had really started to take off. It was very hard for me to trade the 15-minute chart as well as run my business. And I was starting to get more of an interest in Forex again. So I wanted to move away from indices, give Forex another go with my strategies. And I had to trade higher time frames because I just couldn't commit to the 15-minute chart trying to do other things. You know, I had kids. I was trying to run a business from home. It just wasn't viable to trade the 15-minute chart. So I went back to Forex and I created a strategy which really became the foundation of my strategies ever since. And it included a number of things. Things like multiple time frame analysis, setups, patterns, moving averages, and I would back test the strategy, I'd trade it, change things about it. And over a period of time, I created a strategy that worked well and gave me an edge. And I'd moved from broker to broker during this time. I've traded with so many brokers over the years. But that's really the point that I got to. And these strategies were profitable, and I traded them for a number of years and saw success as a trader. But then it got to a point, I've been doing this for 15 years, by the way. So I got to the point where I wanted to take this up a notch. I wanted to be a more professional trader than I was. And all the professional traders, they didn't really talk about moving averages or price action patterns. They spoke about fundamental analysis. They spoke about the news. So I was like, if I'm going to take this more seriously, if I'm going to take this up even higher, if I'm going to start my own fund and allow people to follow my trading, I really need to be much more of a professional. So moving into fundamental analysis really suddenly changed things. So combining my strategies with fundamental analysis, and this was quite recent, you know, this wasn't that long ago. This was about three years ago. So even though I had profitable strategies and was doing well, it was only about 3 years ago, so 12 years of trading, that I was like, okay, let's really take this up a gear. Let's combine fundamental analysis with technical analysis. And that's what I did. And my trading has really taken off since then. So I've seen the best returns over the last few years than I've ever seen. My portfolio is not just exposed to Forex. It's now expanded into ETF investing and equity investing. And I have brokerage accounts with a number of brokers. And I've done really well for myself. I'm really happy with how things are going. But I still think this is the early stages of my trading career. You know, I still think there's a lot to come. As the video is titled, I'm only 38 years old and I started this in my early 20s. I expect in another 10 years, maybe I'll be at the peak of my career. I don't know yet. But it's been a very long journey and I've learned a lot. The biggest challenge for me, apart from creating that strategy in the beginning, that took so much time and effort. Creating a strategy, back testing it, live testing it, modifying the strategy, back testing it, live testing it. So much time and energy creating strategies. But my biggest challenge, apart from creating the strategy, was sticking to the strategy. You know, the emotional aspect has always been a challenge. It's even a challenge now. But there's a big difference between me now and me, say, 10 years ago. And that is, I just don't care. I don't care anymore. And I don't mean that I don't care about risk. I'm just going to put it all on black. You know, this trade's going to work out or not. And I don't care if it's a winner or a loser. That's not what I mean. I just don't care about the result. I've let go of the trading results. And that has really helped me. I guess another way to put that is I have no expectations from trading, apart from I'm just going to follow my rules. And ironically, the byproduct of doing that is good results. I found that whenever I focused too much on my performance, I got emotional. I risked too much. I didn't take trades out of fear. I moved away from my strategy, and then it would just kind of tumble and grow into something much more worse. And I'd end up losing a lot of money. So the emotional side of trading has always been an issue, but I think with maturity, you learn to not care so much. You let go of this trade needs to be a winner. I just don't care. I care about the risk, and risk management is vital, along with a strategy, if you want to be successful in trading. But I guess the ego side, I need to make this much today. I need to make this much this month. That ego side is very little compared to what it used to be. So that is my journey. I don't think there's anything in that journey that surprises you or that doesn't surprise you. But that's really my journey condensed from beginning to end. I did make some notes here. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to. There is one point here that I didn't cover. Another challenge I've always had, and I struggle with this today as a trader, is having a decent win rate. So I found that to make big returns, my win rate always takes a hit. So I'm trying to make, say, 1 to 10 risk reward on certain trades. I found that the only way to make a great return overall, say a 12-month period, is to have these bigger risk reward trades. But that always seems to have a negative impact on my win rate. And my win rate is always an area that I've struggled with ever since the beginning. Even though I've been profitable, even though I've been successful, even though things are going fantastically well for me from a trading point of view, that win rate has always been a challenge. And my win rate now, as a 15-year trader who made 93% last year and is up 30-40% this year, don't quote me on this year's performance, but something like that. Even though I'm doing incredibly well and my portfolio is growing, that win rate is a real challenge. And my win rate's probably only overall 30 to 40%, 30 to 45%. It's very low. So with that win rate comes consecutive losing trades, which is a drawdown. So I do move into a drawdown frequently. And obviously that has an impact on your trading emotions. That's probably the only area of my trading that I want to improve, apart from having even more capital and growing this further and making a name for myself. That win rate is really difficult, but I also have to be realistic. Forex trading is extremely difficult, much more difficult than, say, investing in stocks. So much more emotional. Just to make it as a Forex trader is a big enough achievement. But if I could change one thing, it would be to increase that win rate. Even if I could get it above the 50% mark, it would make a huge difference. But I'm waffling on now. Thank you so much for watching. As mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, leave them below. If you want to share your journey, leave it below. If you can relate to anything I've said, let me know below, and I'll speak to you in another video.